Welcome back to another awesome video.
Today we're talking about an audio artifact with a Memphis, Tennessee connection. And I'll give you a hint. It's not the rare quadraphonic Elvis 8-track. No, it's the player. This player is an Arthur Fulmer 8-track machine. So who is Arthur Fulmer and what audio equipment did he or his company produce?
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time.
I'll tell you that in a minute, and I actually think I met Mr. Fulmer as a child in the 1980s. We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about the device itself.
It's very heavy.
Yeah, it takes 8D batteries, or it can be powered from an outlet. So one question that comes up immediately is, it's a boombox? Is it a boombox? Technically, I guess it is a boombox.
It was kind of weird. It kind of reminded me of a Terminator boombox I saw. When Kyle Reese is walking away from an alley, and I could look in the background, and there's some guy carrying a thing and it had some knobs on it. And when I saw this thing, I'm like, that looks familiar.
Well, this does not look like a normal boombox like the one we have. It kind of predates it. I think it's from the 70s. To me, it reminds me of the plastic nature of it reminds me of like a 1960s hairdryer that my grandmother would use or something like that. But now it does unfold into two pieces, which are connected by a wire, and then you just stick the 8-track in the side and it plays. And it will run while the pieces are connected together, so it will work like a weird boombox with speakers firing out of either side, although I have a feeling it's probably designed to be used in separate pieces.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're a good audience. Thank you very much.
So now let's talk a little bit about the Arthur Fulmer name. Why did I pick this up? Well, back in the 80s, my suburban neighborhood backed up to his property, and kids would play outside all day. I remember one time we just knew that it was owned by Mr. Fulmer. We didn't know anything about him. One time we were gathering some wood to build a treehouse on his land, and this older guy rides up on a horse. He was very nice. He didn't care about us playing on his land, but that was Mr. Fulmer. He was an older man, so from my childhood 1980s perspective, I don't know, maybe he was 50, 60, I don't know. From the information I can find online, they were an automobile accessories company producing things like seat covers. And it makes sense that eventually in the early 70s they got into 8-track players that could be added onto your car. And since they produced these add-on 8-track players, it makes sense that they would have the standalone 8-track player like I have here. The latest car audio thing I found on archive.org was this 1989 ad. Pretty cool looking equalizer cassette deck combo. But I think Fulmer just imported these audio products and put their name on them. Like this automatic Radio SEP 9800 is exactly the same machine. So anyway, let's look inside this machine and see if there's any quality parts lurking within. There's a little bit of shipping damage and some plastic crumbs spilling out there. There's the sticker on the back, GC Electronics, Rockford, Illinois. Somebody had removed most of the screws from the back, so there's one screw holding it in. I just had to remove that. But looking inside, all the plasticky outside, the inner mechanism is actually pretty decent. Look at that nice thick flywheel. Obviously, we need a new belt. That's a problem. But, surprisingly, you got a lot of metal construction. It looks pretty solid on the inside. There's a speaker in the background. Another little screw rolling around there at the bottom. I had to figure out how to get this sucker out. There's another screw that's loose in there. Wow. What's going on? This thing must have really been dropped by UPS. There's another one of these things. A washer. Let's see what we can get out of this thing. Yep, there's another one. All the broken screws and plastic that I found inside this thing really had to do with keeping the front plastic plate on. The screws that held the mechanism inside were all intact and they were separate. I just had to remove those and the side clasp, and then I was able to lift it out of there. And, the motor was pretty solid. It seemed like a sturdy mechanism. The solenoid there with the big S on it is what actually advances the track, and it looked like the head still moved up and down. So the first thing I sort of tried was to rehabilitate the original belt by boiling it and putting in alcohol on it, because I thought, I'm not going to use this thing. That ultimately didn't work. Here's what happened when I tried to get the original belt going again. It just really sort of got off to a slow start. Here we go. But reusing the original belt was not a good idea. When I ended up putting the machine back together and putting it in the vertical position, it got to where, trying different 8-tracks, some of them it just didn't have enough pull to actually move it. And you started wiggling the 8-track and the speed would change. So I had to, give up on the original belt. So I ended up getting a new belt, put some deoxit on all the potentiometers, and I was ready to try looking. And that seemed to fix the problem. Everything started working great with a consistent speed. Surprisingly, this thing made a decent amount of noise. I could see in the early 70s it would be a convenient take-along sort of deal. Only other thing to mention is the other side. I just took a peek in there. There's nothing else I needed to do to repair it. But the side with the batteries and the power cord supplies power to the main unit through that DIN cable, but it also receives speaker signal for the right channel back from that. And you can see it was all sort of wired in there. Here's kind of a glimpse inside of it. You can see the transformer and all that kind of stuff, other speaker. Well, that's about it for the Arthur Fulmer 8-track. As always, thanks for watching our channel and supporting us, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time for another awesome video. Bye.
Thank you very much.